Okay, we'll go ahead and get started now. Welcome to the PMsquare Webinar, How to Optimize Your IBM Licensing with IBM FlexPoints. My name is Joel Mackay. I'm part of the Business Development and Marketing team here at PMsquare, and I'll be serving as the webinar MC. During this 30-minute webinar, we're going to review IBM's new licensing program that was introduced in April, the FlexPoints program. Joining me is Kevin Emanuel, our Director of Software Solutions. Kevin will be presenting today and answering your questions during the Q&A portion of the webinar. Just as a housekeeping, you can submit a question at any time by accessing the GoToWebinar toolbar on the right side of your screen. And we're going to answer as many questions as we can during the Q&A portion. For any questions that we don't get to during the webinar, we'll make sure to address in our Q&A document that we'll send out as a follow-up to the webinar. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kevin for today's webinar.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Welcome everyone to this webinar. As Joel mentioned, my name is Kevin Emanuel. I'm the Director of Software Solutions here at PMsquare. And again, I want to welcome you guys to this edition of our webinar talking about FlexPoints. This is a program that was recently introduced just last month. And we've seen a lot of excitement around this, both from our customers, existing, and some of the new customers that are coming on board to IBM. So we're excited to bring the information to you guys. So I'll be covering the program overview and talking about licensing. And as Joel mentioned, we will have a Q&A at the end, where if we have time, we'll be happy to open the lines and have you guys ask any questions that you may have. So with that said, I want to go ahead and get started and talk about the agenda. As far as what I'm going to do, I'll just do a quick overview of PMsquare, just in case there's anyone on the call who may not be familiar with who we are and what we do. I'll keep that very brief to about a minute or two, and then I'll jump right into it and talk about FlexPoints. Before getting to that, though, I want to talk about kind of some of the changes that took place at the beginning of the year in terms of IBM's overall go-to-market strategy that really led to this new program being launched called FlexPoints. So I'll talk about that briefly, and then we'll get into FlexPoints, talk about the overview, and then, as I mentioned, we'll get to the Q&A. But again, I encourage everyone to be engaged, and if you do have any questions that come up, please do post them in the window to the right side of your screen. That way we can either address them at the end of the call, or if we run out of time, we can also follow up with you guys afterwards directly and provide answers to your questions. So with that said, I'll do a quick overview of who we are as a company. So PMsquare, as many of you are already aware, we are a gold-level IBM business partner. And what that really means is that we can become your primary go-to person with anything related to IBM, whether it's for procurement of software licensing, procurement of your software and subscription renewal on an annual basis, or really providing any kind of support that you may need in terms of maneuvering the big blue, getting connected to the right folks within IBM, and accessing the right material announcements that you may need as you continue to use the product. And as you see on the right-hand side, we are a relatively specialized and focused consultancy. So we're not a generic IT firm that does everything. We do one thing, and we do that one thing really well, and that's data analytics and information management. So we essentially cover any of the products that you may be familiar with from the analytics portfolio of IBM, including Cognos, planning analytics, SPSS, predictive capabilities, as well as some of the new cognitive solutions that have recently been introduced. The second part of our company is our professional services and consultancy, where we not only help our customers to implement and deploy different IBM solutions, but we also help you with any ongoing support that may be needed, whether that's training, whether that's strategy sessions that you may need from time to time to understand how you can become more of an analytics-driven organization. As you start to look at different products within the analytics portfolio of IBM, we're here to help provide some guidance and support there. In the scenarios where you may need to upgrade your product from one version to another, we have the ability to come in and help provide some guidance there and help you guys from a services standpoint as well. So that's really where our consultancy really resides. And on the right side, you'll see some accolades that we've been able to achieve over the years for some of the good work that we've done. some of the success stories that we've been able to produce globally. And I say globally because PMsquare does actually have locations outside of the US as well. So today we're deployed in not only the US, but also in Sydney, Australia, in Singapore, as well as Philippines as well. So the IBM champions and the consultants that we do have do span across the globe beyond just the US as well. So that's a high-level overview of who we are as a company and how we're here to help serve you guys. With that said, I want to jump right into it. As I mentioned, talk about IBM's go-to-market strategy and some of the changes there that's led to FlexPoints. So the primary change here is that at the beginning of the year, IBM really kind of organized the way that they go to market and how they have different products within different portfolios that they offer within the information management and analytics portfolios. And those three portfolios that we're going to talk about today are the following. The first is your hybrid data management portfolio. And this really focuses on the collection and storage of all types of data, both structured and unstructured data, using IBM's family of database systems. So if you're familiar with any of the DB2 products, this is where that portfolio really kind of focuses on, really the collection of data and making sure that your data is clean. Whoops. So the second pillar is your organized, or what's called unified governance and integration pillar. And this is where you start to transform some of the data that you've collected, right? So transformation of data using ETL tools, data integration, MDM, while also making sure that you're applying governance and ensuring that the quality that you've gathered and organized, is in the right state before applying any kind of presentation layer to it. And the last pillar here is one that I've just based on the attendee list that I saw right before the webinar. I believe this is where majority of the folks on the call are really mostly focused on, which is the data science and business analytics portfolio. This is where you have all of the presentation layers and the analysis of the data that you've collected and you're organized. So really anything from a reporting standpoint, forecasting and budgeting tools, predictive capabilities, really analyzing your data to better understand kind of the past, current and future state of your business. So those are the three primary pillars and primary portfolios that IBM is now going to market with. And really this reorganization was not only to clean up the way that they have their product categorized, but it was also because they wanted to give their customers the ability to use all of the products within each portfolio and expand their analytics agenda without having to constantly look at what they're licensed for and what they're not. So with FlexPoints moving forward, you do have the ability to access all of the different technologies that reside within each of these portfolios with the licensing that you currently have. So with that said, let's take a deeper look at what FlexPoints really is. And this is my own version of the kind of the definition for the program. So FlexPoints is a new and streamlined method for buying software licensing via the platform offering that we just discussed. And it allows the access to every technology within the portfolio, as well as the different license tiers for each technology solution. What that really means is that all the different products that fall in each category that we'll cover in just a few minutes, you do have access to them as part of FlexPoints. Not only that, but if you have different tiers of licensing currently for any one product, this allows you the ability to be able to kind of maneuver across different tiers and exchange licenses that are at a lower tier for a higher tier and vice versa. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to be able to really just use the technology without necessarily worrying about the licensing configuration and so forth. So how does it really all work? And I'll talk about this in two capacities, one for brand new customers coming to IBM as well as existing customers and how they may be impacted by this. So for brand new customers, they can procure FlexPoint licenses instead of individual tiered licensing model for any of the products or for any of the categories that we just mentioned: hybrid data management, unified governance and integration, and data science and business analytics. Once you do that, you can use your points to deploy your FlexPoints across any of the components of those portfolios that you've purchased them for. And what that really allows you to do is to be able, as I mentioned before, to grow beyond just the specific technologies that you may have a need for today and be able to kind of expand as your needs grow across different technology solutions there. So how does it work for existing customers that are today in the traditional license tier model? Essentially the same way. So really the only thing that you would have to do is to enroll in the FlexPoints program and transition from the tiered licensing model to FlexPoints. Once you're there, you do have a set number of points based on the value of the software that you currently own today. And from that point forward, you can start to allocate your points across different technologies, different licenses, and really kind of be in charge of how you use the technologies and you allow access to different folks within your organization. That's really how the program really comes together and how it all works. So taking a step back into the different pillars that we talked about, I'm sure many of you may be interested to know what products actually fall in each of those categories. So, and like I said, I won't focus too much on the first two pillars just because we do have most of the folks in this call really focus on the third one. But just to kind of list the products that are available in each category, the hybrid data management, as I mentioned before, is all of your database, so all of your DB2 products that are offered from IBM. The second piece, unified governance and integration, really has to do with the transition of data. So anything from information server, ETL tools to MDM, and applying governance and quality to your data. And this particular one that you guys are mostly interested in is the data science and business analytics. And I'll talk briefly about each of these products. So Cognos Analytics is your enterprise reporting platform. I think most people on this call should already know what Cognos is, but it's essentially a reporting platform that allows you to take all of your data and put it in a meaningful format in using reports and dashboards and be able to distribute those reports to the different folks within your organization. Planning Analytics is a new version of, if you're familiar with TM1, Planning Analytics is essentially the new version of TM1. And this is your forecasting, budgeting, and planning tool, not only just for the Office of Finance, but also for operational, forecasting and demand planning as well. If you have not had a chance to see the latest version of Planning Analytics or Cognos Analytics, I want to invite you guys to reach out to us and give us the opportunity to show you the latest and greatest versions of it. Cognos specifically has come a long way from the previous versions, dating back to Cognos 10. And even since the introduction of Cognos Analytics, or version 11, it's come a really long way from the first release up until now that we're on the 11th release of Cognos Analytics. So again, if you haven't had an opportunity to see it, we'll be happy to show you guys what the latest versions look like there. The third product is SPSS Modeler. So this is where predictive analytics comes into play. You can do predictive analytics that really layers on top of Cognos or Planning Analytics for predictive forecasting or taking a look at the future state of your business. The next one is DSX Local or Data Science Experience. And this product really allows you to analyze data using RStudio, Jupyter, and Python in more of a pre-configured and collaborative environment. If you're not familiar with data science, there's a lot that goes into it. We did provide a webinar, I believe it was 2 or 3 webinars ago, on data science experience, specifically on some of the content that we brought back from the Think conference. So I invite you guys to take a look at that webinar and let us know if you have any questions there. The next product there is Decision Optimization, which is essentially your optimization tool. This is where you get into more of the prescriptive analytic solutions. And decision optimization allows some of those highly data-intensive organizations to make better decisions by solving complex optimization problems. And that's done using API, Python, or Java. And last but not least is the Watson Explorer product, which is actually one of my favorite ones, one of the newest additions to this portfolio. And this is where you get into cognitive data exploration. Watson Explorer, or you may have heard of it being referred to as WEX, allows you to really analyze both structured and unstructured data, internal, external, public data, really any type of data that you want to use to analyze. It allows cognitive capabilities to be able to go in there and look for patterns and bring those results back to you in rapid fashion. So those are all the products that are there, and I have included the components that are excluded from each portfolio with respect to FlexPoints, just for your for your information, and we'll be sure to share this deck with you guys afterward as well. One point to bring up here on this slide is that all of the products that are part of the FlexPoints program today are for on-premise solutions only. So this does not, cloud solutions do not qualify for FlexPoints. That's as of today. IBM has mentioned that there may be plans in the future to create a similar program or potentially open up FlexPoints to cloud solutions as well. But as of today, really everything that we're talking about with respect to FlexPoints are for on-premise solutions only. And the next thing, and really the last thing that I want to leave you guys with here is there is a FlexPoints calculator available online. And then we can connect with you afterwards and provide you access to this console that allows you to really take a look at how your existing licenses transition to those points that we mentioned. And this is what the website looks like. You essentially get on, you select the different portfolios that are available, one of the 3 portfolios that we mentioned. From there, all the products and the specific license tiers for that product appear at the bottom of the screen. So you simply enter the number of quantities that you have, and that translates into the total number of points that you have for that category. And if you wanted to kind of play around with this, take a certain set number of users from a user tier or higher tier and mix and match them to see how your points really line up, this allows you that ability to be able to do that very easily. So again, we'll follow up with you guys afterwards, but if anyone wants to have access to this, we're happy to provide you the link and kind of give you a quick walkthrough of how this console and the calculator really works. So call to actions. I encourage all of you guys to reach out to your PMsquare representative, whether that's myself or some of the other folks here at PMsquare that you work with. We can sit down with you and review your licensing mix and the FlexPoints calculations. So get an understanding of, how would those transition to different products or different license tiers with, respect to the configuration that you currently own. We can discuss trade-up options and some of the pricing that may be available. The one thing that I can say, every account is typically different and unique in its own way. But from the pricing standpoint, trading up to FlexPoints is a very, very minimal amount on top of your existing support renewal cost. In some cases, about 10% or below. So if you reach out to us, we can kind of talk through that pricing. We can take a look at your existing configuration and give you an idea of what it would, what the cost would be to transition from the existing model to this FlexPoints program. And if you decide to move forward with this, we can go ahead and enroll you in FlexPoints, and that would allow you the ability to start expanding your analytics agenda. And as you become more of an analytics-driven organization, last and not least, you get to throw a party and celebrate. So as I mentioned before, we've seen a lot of traction here. A lot of our customers are very excited about this program. And we're excited to see more excitement come from this and seeing more of our customers kind of embark on this journey and expanding their agenda with FlexPoints. So before I open it up to Q&A, just a couple of different ways that I want to encourage you guys to stay connected with us and engaged. We do have our newsletters that are published on a monthly basis. If you're not already logged on and a member of PMsquare Journal, I encourage you to sign up for it. This is where we bring a lot of technology updates, market trends, announcements such as this to you on a monthly basis. We do have a kind of a ongoing and growing number of users on our PMsquare Journal distribution because of the great content that we distribute there. So I encourage you to sign up and become part of that community. Our website blog is also another way that you can continue to stay on top of the latest and greatest information. We do post information on a regular basis, and there's a lot of good conversations that go on there. So 2 primary ways that you can remain engaged with us there. And last but not least, I want to kind of let you guys know about the next webinar that we'll be hosting on June 7th, where we'll be talking about the PMsquare Thrive solution. This is a solution where you can monitor, measure, and promote user adoption for Cognos. So whether it's that you're in a situation where you're upgrading from a previous version to a new version and you want to see how your user adoption changes, or whether it's just that you want to monitor, how the new capabilities or new features of Cognos are being used by different folks within your organization, this tool will allow that opportunity to be able to monitor that in more of a proactive fashion moving forward. So this webinar will be held on June 7th. So with that said, Joel, I'm going to turn it back to you. And if you have any questions in the chat box, I'll be happy to answer them here for the remaining time that we have on the call.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. If you want to ask a question, go ahead and submit it in the toolbar. We've got a few already in. So Kevin, first question for you. Is it possible to trade up or transition your FlexPoints from one portfolio to another?
So there's not. As I mentioned before, the FlexPoints that you purchase or that you have purchased in the past do reside within that particular portfolio. So there's no way to transition across portfolios. What you can do is, as we've been discussing, is transition from the different products within the portfolio or different license tiers within that portfolio. If you do need technologies that do fall in a different category, you would essentially have to purchase new FlexPoints for those products.
Thank you. I've got another question here for you. So can you add more FlexPoints at any time, or does it have to be at your renewal?
So that's a really good question. You can add additional FlexPoints at any point, and it does not have to be at the time of your renewal. So at any point, there was ways that we can prorate things. There was ways that you can add additional points to gain access to additional software or other technologies. So no, it does not have to be at the time of renewal. It can be done at any time.
Thank you. And one more question here. I had a question about Watson Analytics. Watson Explorer was part of the analytics portfolio. Is Watson Analytics also a part of the data science and business analytics portfolio?
Yeah, so another good question. The answer is no. So Watson Analytics is not part of the portfolio. One reason for that is, as you may be aware, Watson Analytics is a cloud-only product, and cloud solutions are not part of this program. So the only Watson product really that's in here is the Watson Explorer that we discussed before.
Thank you. Well, if you have any additional questions, go ahead and submit this now. And as a reminder, we will be compiling any questions that are submitted for the webinar and following up with a Q&A document.
Fantastic. So I want to thank everyone for joining. We'll keep the lines open for another 4 minutes. It seems like we have, to see if any additional questions come through. We'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys all again for joining the webinar, and we look forward to seeing you guys in the next webinar and seeing you guys more engaged on our newsletters and our blog moving forward.